Hi there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Excited to be here with you. This is another episode of All Around Azure. I am today's host. My name is Jason Hand, and looking forward to today's conversation. I've brought in a good friend and a former cloud advocate that I've gotten to know pretty well over the past few years, working on a number of different things. And he's going to be talking to us about a lot of things, but they all kind of revolve around the topic of Java. So without further ado, let me introduce our friend. Everybody say hello to Bruno Borges. Hi, Bruno.
Yeah, hey Jason, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I couldn't be better. I'm locked down for 1 hour with you on
That's
this live
right.
streaming, so I'm gonna have some fun for sure.
That's right. I've got you your mind for the next hour and a half actually, and then we got 90 minutes to talk to
90
people.
minutes. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
we got plenty of time. And while we're getting settled in here, we've got some people that are joining us on the stream already. So those of you who are joining us, welcome to the show. We would love to field your questions. If you've got any, just drop them into chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that and passing those on over to Bruno. If Bruno has any links or either one of us have anything we would like to share, I'll also be putting those into chat. And yeah. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today, Bruno. We chatted. I mean, it was just earlier this week where we kind of finalized what our plans are. Oh, you got a friend over there? We got a dog friend?
That's my dog. Yes. Apparently my noise canceling microphone is not suited
Crisp is
enough to cancel the dog.
crisp isn't that crisp.
But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's great. You can bring it over to say hello to the rest of us if you'd like.
I don't. I think
Um,
I'll save the dog for another time for my Instagram.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so anyway, Bruno and I chatted earlier in the week about what we were going to do today, and Bruno, as I mentioned, he and I were on the cloud advocacy team for a while, and got to travel around to a few different cities. We were in Sao Paulo together. I think was maybe the first stop, and yeah, over our time together, it almost always revolves around either Java or site reliability engineering. I feel like when we chat, we were just actually you were the last person I had a good working conversation on the road with when I was out in Redmond for our summit. Didn't you and
That
I
is,
didn't you and I get
yeah.
together like right before I went to the airport? And I think that was my last flight. Like I haven't gone anywhere since that trip.
Think it was mine as well. It's been a while. Yeah, I do. I'm in this weird mood where I miss travel, but I also don't miss travel. I guess because I'm having a good time at home with the kids and family. So, it's like I
Doing
miss
live
it, but
streams
I
with me.
don't
Yeah.
miss it.
Yeah, exactly. So, for those of you or for those on the stream who don't know you, Bruno, could you maybe give us a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, what you're up to lately?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I joined Microsoft back in 2018 in February, and it was to join the developer relations team for Java, and that was we had a great time over there, and in a good old before pandemic times, and before that I did work for Oracle as well for about 5 years, 5 years and a half, and for Oracle, I was a Java developer throughout my years since 2000. And now I'm working in the developer division here at Microsoft with the Java engineering group, where we basically look into Java workloads in the cloud and try to identify optimizations that will make Java applications run better, faster, and cheaper, even perhaps consuming less CPU and less memory. So those are like the kind of work that we do, and we also work with some performance analysis tools that we are developing internally. Hopefully, one day we can open source some of that work as well. And and now, I mean, looking at how Microsoft uses Java helps us identify these different patterns and these different workloads. And it's an interesting story because Microsoft uses Java more than people can imagine. We have some subsidiaries like LinkedIn, for example, or Yammer, who have their backend 100% implemented in Java. And there is also some other usage beyond backend development. We have lots of Android developers, and they use Java to build their applications. We have the Azure SDK team that provides a Java SDK, and some services on Azure rely 100% on the JVM, especially the big data related services that provide Spark and Hadoop for our customers. So there's a lot of Java usage, and our team works with these different organizations within Microsoft to try to make Java better, which helps Microsoft, and of course also helps our customers. So customers can definitely trust that, hey, if you're running Java on Azure, it's not just, we're not just putting the JVM out there and making it work. We're actually optimizing it for our customers and for ourselves. So Java is important for Microsoft, and our Java customers are important to us.
Mm-hmm. I think it was you that maybe showed me a shocking graphic or numbers or something that showed just how much usage Java still is out in the wild. And yeah, I just know talking to you when you went over to the Java team, how excited you were about, how invested Microsoft is in Java, and just all the things that are going on over there, and how they're trying to really, make it a great service. I mean, not JVMs alone. Java's out, widely used in lots of different cases. I think you've tried to make the argument with me lots of times, even though I'm totally with you. Like I think you and I were talking about, like, when was the last time I programmed in Java, and it was literally 20 years ago, probably. But how much it's still used today in core infrastructure and core services is kind of shocking.
Yeah, it's people who have worked with the Java language in the past, those who have moved to different languages, they just felt, this is not for me anymore. And sometimes they start working with different kinds of workloads, different kind of applications. And then they stop following the market, following the trend in the Java ecosystem, right? Some people still think, oh, when was the last time Java had an update? Well, it was like 2 months ago. And they think, oh, I thought the last update was like 6 years ago
in
or
the
something.
90s.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that definitely reflects in how developers perceive the platform. And one of my job outside Microsoft as a Java champion is to educate those that think Java is slow or Java is not evolving, not progressing, and bring the knowledge, bring the information that, hey, this is a still solid, stable, very performant platform for workloads. And people oftentimes they get surprised. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know this existed now in Java and something like that. So definitely Java has evolved, continues to evolve, and here at Microsoft we try to push things forward. I'll give you an example. Recently, GitHub Actions published a new image for their virtual environments. And I had this conversation with the GitHub team, and they said, hey, why don't we make the default in this new image the Java 11 version instead of Java 8? Java 8 was published like 6 to 8 years ago, I guess. And Java 11 is also old compared to the other releases. We are right now currently working on Java 15.
Yeah, I was going to say 14 is the current one, right? Or 14 dot something?
Current generally available version of Java, yes. And it was released early this year. Java 11 was published around 2018, somewhere 2018, late 2013, 2018. So the work with the GitHub team was, let's make this new image of Java 11, and they bought the idea. And now if you use the Ubuntu 20.04, I guess, you get Java 11 out of the box. So we are working with GitHub Actions team as well on the particular action for setting up your Java environment on GitHub Actions. So you are allowed to configure different Java versions and different Java distributions. The other thing that people think, oh, is Java free? Is Java not free?
Yeah.
The reality is Java continues to be free. And not only that, but you have a different variety of distributions and vendors to get Java from. You can get from Oracle, either commercial or free. and you can get from other companies like Azure System, who is a partner that we work with on Azure, and they provide free commercial support on Azure for us and our customers. But we also have other companies like IBM, Red Hat, Bellsoft. Alibaba has their own distribution of Java. JetBrains has its own distribution of Java for IntelliJ and other IDEs like Android Studio. So there are a lot of choices and a lot of improvements in the recent years that people don't know just because they stopped following, right? So they are stuck on this image that from the early 2000 or mid 2000 where oh, are you working with Java EE and application servers, or Java slow and applets and swing and things like that. Things have evolved a lot. So we are working with our partners and our customers to bring that knowledge. And I think it's quite exciting times for being a Java developer. Not only a Java developer, but a JVM user, right? You can write in Kotlin, you can write in Scala, you can write in Groovy or Clojure or different languages and still deploy on top of the JVM and get all the benefits of that runtime. And as much as I can sharing that knowledge, I think everybody benefits from it.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. No, I was definitely one of those people who thought Java was, on its way out. I guess I've got a lot of, we'll just say scars from WebSphere from back in the day. And, I'd imagine maybe a lot of people have some stories to tell about maintaining similar types of things. Anyway, not to bring up any bad memories, but I think we've all had that same like thought of Java's been around forever, and there's been so many new languages that come up. Is Java even relevant anymore? And I think every time I talk to you make me realize that not only is it relevant, it's reliable. It's being updated, improved all the time. There's still a big community out there. I know Brian Benz, another person on our team, is a Java champion and big in the community there. So, yeah, I think I imagine there's people on the stream that have also dabbled at least a little bit in Java. So, what kind of stuff do you want to show off today? If we're gonna spend some time either in Azure or what? Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
So I think we could start. Well, and first of all, if anybody has any question at all about Java, about Azure, about tools, about frameworks, about performance, about anything that you feel like, oh, what would Bruno say about this thing? Just feel free to shout on the chat, and I can definitely look into that, and we can have an open discussion on different topics, even in YAML if you want. And I think your scars, Jason, were because of XML.
Yeah. You did promise us a lot of YAML today, so.
I did promise a lot of YAML, yes. People will see me writing YAML on the fly and complaining about it in real time.
Just so I want others to know, Bruno and I are in a Teams chat with our cloud advocacy team, and he never misses an opportunity to chime in when somebody starts talking about YAML. You have some strong opinions, but good opinions, and even XML, I guess, too.
Yeah, I mean, YAML is great if you don't use it. So,
but we have to use it.
Exactly. I think we can get started with getting some overviews of things around Java and Microsoft and the tools that are available for developers these days that Microsoft collaborates and works with. Recently, I mean, we support, if you want to work with Azure, you can definitely use any IDE, right? Because one of the core principles that we have with Java support on Azure is to make the support available agnostic to IDEs.
Okay.
So what we try to focus on is delivering the best support possible through command line and Java build tools. And today, currently, the best, not the best, I won't say the best. It is my personal preference, but I won't say it's the best because it's really opinionated. But the most used build tool right now in the Java ecosystem is still Apache Maven. And we try to make the support of Azure through Maven the best possible. So if you have a Java project that is Maven, you can configure the Azure plugins and deploy to the cloud or make configurations and changes through the Maven plugins without relying on any particular IDE or extension or plugin of those IDEs. But we do provide support for 3 IDEs. One is Eclipse, the second one is IntelliJ, and of course, Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So most Java developers are on either IntelliJ or Eclipse. But some Java developers have been exploring Visual Studio Code for different reasons, whether it's because it's lightweight, whether it's because it's where they spend most of the time already with their HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. And some developers will think, well, if I'm spending a lot of time on Visual Studio Code for my web applications and my microservices, why don't I use Visual Studio Code as well for Java development? And that's one of the reasons that Java developers are starting to pick on VS Code, especially for cloud development. So one thing that I could cover here at the beginning is, let's look into Visual Studio Code for Java development and how that looks like. Mm-hmm. And if you are on Windows, that's totally cool. What I'm going to show on Visual Studio Code, it works as well on Windows, but right now I'm using my Mac, so okay. Don't worry about Windows. It does work great.
Great.
Okay, so let's get started by sharing my screen.
Yeah, let's switch over to you and take it away.
All right. Okay, so here I have my browser, and if you're a Java developer, what you want to do is learn about Java even before you never tried Visual Studio Code, and of course maybe you feel like inclined to just download and start from there. I think developers should at least read a little bit more before even downloading and installing. And one thing that you can do is go into Docs, and you click on Languages, and then you go to Java. So this gives you a nice overview, and you can get started with a tutorial. But most importantly, this is the install Visual Studio Code for Java. Why am I showing this? Because Java developers, they have to kind of set up their Java development environment. So they have to install a JDK, and then they have to install the editor and whatever is required for that editor to work with Java development. Visual Studio Code is not a Java editor. Visual Studio Code is an agnostic language editor, although there is JavaScript support out of the box, but I'll leave that for another discussion. You have to install different extensions on Visual Studio Code to support Java development. So there is this nice installer here for Windows and Mac currently that will help you configure Visual Studio Code for Java development. So I'm just gonna click on download, and once that starts, we're gonna look at how this works. But for now, if you go to the Java Getting Started tutorial, you got the similar walkthrough, setting up Visual Studio Code for Java development, and again, a hint to the installer. And this is how the installer looked like on Windows. It will configure some components and then configure the JDK, download if required, and then set up these extensions out of the box for you. So let's look at that experience. So here is my VS Code Java installer for Mac.
Also, just so everybody knows, I put the link to that same tutorial in chat for everybody.
Awesome.
And welcome, also just take a quick second here to welcome everybody who's just joined us. Thank you for rating us. Our friends from the Visual Studio channel have joined the party here. So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming over and joining this show. And yeah, Bruno, I'll take it back to you.
Sweet. All right. So this is the installer, the Visual Studio Code installer for Mac. So let's just walk through it. The JDK binary to be installed is provided by Adopt-a-Page JDK, which is a community-led, vendor-neutral binary of Java that Microsoft proudly sponsors. And we also, some of the members of the Adopt-a-Page JDK project are members of our Java engineering group. So they split their work between Microsoft and Adopt-a-Page JDK in supporting that distribution. Adopt-a-Page JDK has binaries for different operating systems, of course, Windows, Mac, and Linux, and they also provide Docker images that are very stable. This is based on the vanilla OpenJDK project. So if you want to see the source code, you can literally just go to the OpenJDK .java.net website. Okay, so we click next, and here's what the installer will do. It will detect whether you have Java already installed and Visual Studio Code already installed. If you do, it will skip the installation of these components. If not, it would provide you with, or it would download these binaries for you automatically, right? It would download the JDK from Adopt OpenJDK, and it would download Visual Studio Code. Once this is done, I just click on install, and the next thing is just configure the Java settings of Visual Studio Code that you already have in your environment or it just got installed. This means configuring the basic extensions for Java developers. So when I click finish and I click on launch Visual Studio Code, this is what I got. I got Visual Studio Code. In fact, on the first run, we got this Java overview tab that I already disabled here, so that's why it's not showing anymore. But it would give you this nice Java overview with some ideas of what to do next. Okay. So you can create a Maven project.
It gives you a jumping point to
micro profile, and this is a great place to start.
Yeah, and it already has a way for you to start right in with. I see Maven, Spring, Quarkus, all those. Are those templates? Yeah. Cool.
And it also provides some. So as I said before, most developers are on either IntelliJ or Eclipse, so you can actually use the key bindings of either IntelliJ or Eclipse, just so you don't get stuck by learning the shortcuts and key bindings all again from Visual Studio Code. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that we can do here is just go with the basics, right? I'm going to create a file, and I'm going to run. So this is an untitled file, so you don't get any code assistance for Java. What you should do first is save this file. So let's gonna save it and call it hello.java. And now I got code assistant from the language server for Java. So let me just skip Quarkus here because it's showing me this again. So now I have the template for a class. And here's my class, hello. And I can also give a main method. As we know, Java has this nice thing about the main method. And a sys out. And let's say hello, right? And once this is done, you can just click and run. This will compile and run this code right away for you. So here it is, hello, at the bottom, right? So if you use this Java installer, pack installer for Visual Studio Code, it will help you configure Visual Studio Code for Java development. That is really great about this because you don't spend time figuring out what JDK to use, where to download from. You don't waste your time searching on the internet, and you don't waste your time figuring out which Java extensions or which extensions to install to get Java support. Just go with that, and you get this configuration out of the box. So let's say I want to have a property here. Let's say a private string name, and I want to generate some code because people ask, oh, does Visual Studio Code support refactoring and code generation? Yes, it does. So let's do a refactor here, and we can change the modifiers to final where possible. And it didn't do anything because it thinks it's not possible. So let's do something else here, and let's do a get name and generate that. Let's do a set name and generate that. So now we can say, okay, so let's create a new hello. And new hello.setName, JSON, and let's do it with string. And this will just do a silly.
Hey Bruno, would you mind just zooming in on VS Code a couple of times?
Yeah.
One of our viewers asked if we could increase the font just a little. And also we got a comment about entity bean.
Yeah.
Do you remember entity beans?
Entity beans, yes, I remember those. I'm glad they don't exist anymore. Well, they do exist, but we don't have to use them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, entity beans were cool. I mean, the whole concept of entity beans was extremely interesting because, in a way, and I have this discussion on Twitter from last year. Uh, I'm hearing all these conversations about sidecars and proxies on Kubernetes, and at the end of the day, entity Java beans back in the old days were exactly like that, conceptually speaking, right? Implementation, of course, was different, but the idea is not far off. So it's interesting how the Kubernetes ecosystem is now moving forward into uh, delivering the same sort of concepts that existed in the Java EE application servers in the past. Of course, with the benefit that on Kubernetes you have all these language agnostic concepts that you can implement in any language and benefit from it. But it's good to recognize, and I think it's important to recognize the value that the Java EE world brought into programming. So let's give hello Jason, and for that we're just going to string.format hello Jason and get name. Okay, cool. So now we have a hello message, and let's click on run, and it still giving a hello world. Oh, why?
Do you need both the get name and set name?
No, because it didn't change the message here. I want to give a hello.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, now we got a hello Jason. So refactoring works. So let's do one thing here. Let's try to rename the not modifiers. Let's rename this thing over here. Rename symbol to message. So now we have message, but it does not rename the property, right? Because some IDEs like IntelliJ, that's where IntelliJ is years ahead, Eclipse as well. They understand that this is a property in the concept, but not in the language, because Java language does not have the concept of properties. It has a concept of attributes and methods, and or actually not even attributes. It's called fields. Period. So Visual Studio Code, the support is not there yet, so we're just going to change the message. But the nice thing is when you do rename the method or the field, it does change that in different locations in the code, right? Like it did for the message. So let's rename this thing over here to message. And I don't think it's renaming because some problem is happening. And I'll tell you why it's happening, because this is just a Java class in a non-project folder. So to make things a little bit better, let's work with the project. And let's start with a Maven project. Or even better, let's start with the Spring Boot project. So we're going to click on...
For those of you who don't know the difference between those three, Maven, Spring Boot, and Quarkus, or even MicroProfile too, can you maybe just give us a 10-second difference?
Yeah, I can do that. So Maven is just the build tool, which is used by Spring Boot, Quarkus, and MicroProfile. So consider Maven like the generic build tool for any framework, right? An alternative to Maven would be Gradle. So let's create, and Spring Boot is a framework. It's a version of the Spring framework that is opinionated. So basically, it's as if you got Spring framework and you added another layer on top of Spring framework, and you made a lot of assumptions or conventions over the code and how the code is structured, designed, and configured. So Spring Boot uses the Spring framework behind the scenes, but it provides several out-of-the-box configurations and automatic configurations that you don't have to worry about and just use the conventions of Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is an opinionated version of Spring Framework, which is kind of already opinionated, so it's even more opinionated. So let's just go and talk about Quarkus now. So before I talk about Quarkus, actually, let me talk about MicroProfile. So MicroProfile is a standard on the Eclipse Foundation that is a combination of different APIs in the Java ecosystem, and then on top or behind these APIs, you have different implementations. So IBM provides implementations for these APIs. The London Java community works with these implementations. Red Hat has their own runtimes. Tommy Tribe and Payara also have their own runtimes that implement these specifications. So Red Hat, one of the runtimes that implement the specification of microprofile is Quarkus. And why there is Quarkus here and microprofile there? Because with a microprofile project, you can change the implementation that you want to use on the Maven project that gets created. And Quarkus is more like a specialization of a microprofile project. So Quarkus has a lot more features on top of the microprofile APIs. That's why they are provided here at the same time. So microprofile is like the generic project, and Quarkus is the very specific, which you are allowed to use the microprofile APIs. So hope this kind of explains. I know it's not enough, but gives you an idea.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
So let's go with the Maven project here, and we're going to select Maven. We're going to say I want Java, and I'm going to say a common example as a group ID and artifact ID, and let's use the latest version stable of Spring Boot. And here we want to select a few dependencies for this Spring Boot project. Now we want to do at the end of the day like a REST endpoint. So let's just select a Spring Web module that allows us to include RESTful support. And that's it. Now let's select a folder. So let's do a new folder here, and let's say live streaming. And let's generate in this folder. And let's open it. Okay, so now I have a true Maven project that will definitely give me better support on Visual Studio Code. Behind the scenes, it's important to say it's not Visual Studio Code that provides Java support; it's the extensions that get installed, right?
Right.
So if there's any issue with the Java support, we have to find out whether that's a Maven issue or a Java issue, and then go to that particular extension and provide feedback to the GitHub repository of that extension. So while we got the code here compiling and downloading all the dependencies from Spring Boot, we can look at a few of the artifacts. So we got the Maven command, we got the POM file that configures this Maven project, and we get the source code, which is main Java demo application. And here it is, right? So once this is generated for you, you can just come here and click on Run. And let's see if this gets started. All right, so my Spring Boot application is started, and it's running locally on localhost 8080. And the reason it's giving me a white label error page is because I don't have any resource serving my application, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm going to do now is create a class. So let's go here and let's say hello endpoint.java. And yeah, it's a class, and this will be a component, and we're going to have a method here that says public string, say hello, return hello, and this is served by a get. All right, so I'm done with this, and now we can go here, complete an initialization, and let's see if this refreshed automatically. No, not yet. So let's do that. And let's refresh the Java process. Okay, cool. Ooh, something happened here. Let's just kill all the Java VMs, and let's just run again. Create out here. Let's go back here and click on run. All right. Oof, not yet. So this is a REST component, not just a component. REST controller. I see. All right. And let's kill Spring. And let's run again. So instead of running from here, I should probably have a launch file. But when you click on run and debug, it will try to run automatically for you without defining a configuration profile, a run launch profile. So that's why you get into some issues. There it is. There is our hello endpoint.
Yeah, and one of our viewers actually pointed out the same thing. It needed to be a REST controller rather than a component.
Yeah, yeah. And so you see, I'm not a Java developer. I'm not a Spring developer. So I'm not a Java developer. Yeah, that's fun.
Wait a second.
I think this should work. Let's see. I want /hello. I don't want just Ruth. Yes, now it's working. Okay. This one, it's a REST controller, and then get mapping for hello. Okay, cool. So there are other things that people can do here. For example, they can look into Spring extensions that provide some interesting functionalities for Spring Boot in particular. So there's this nice Spring Boot dashboard that will provide a view. I don't know how to make this work out of the box, so I will just not do it. But the thing that is nice, most Spring developers know about this. There's this website called start.spring.io. According to Josh Long, the second best website on the internet. The first one is your production site. So start.spring.io is where you can generate Java projects, right? Most Spring Boot developers come and start here. The one thing that you can do on Visual Studio Code is have the Spring Initializer Java support installed, which I already have. And that's the experience that you saw before. So if I go Spring Initializer, generate a Maven project, then I start on this path here. I'm going to select Java. I want to give my group ID, my artifact ID, select the version, and then dependencies. This experience is the same as going through this website, right? So I want Maven, I want Java, I want the latest version of Spring. Here's my group ID, my artifact. I want to use Java 11 or 14. So let's say 14, and I want to add the web extension. And then boom, I click on generate, and that gives me a zip file that I can extract on my local computer. So it's the same thing, except I think it doesn't allow you to select Java version because it will use whatever Java version you're using locally. So there are several other things that you can do. I mean, clearly we are debugging this code, right? You can see that it is debugging here. So let's look at a breakpoint here. Let's say we want to customize this thing and say string name equals string name. Just say string hello s string.format hello s. I don't know if this will work. You guys that are Spring experts, you let me know in the chat. Let's see if this works automatically. Name equals.
That's the fun part about these shows is having some assistance from our audience.
Yeah.
On things that we don't spot or just suggestions.
And you see, it doesn't work. Right? Of course, it doesn't work right away. So what we have to do is add a path request param here. And I think I need to give a name, port. Yeah, I have to give a name. So let's do this again.
Codex types says return hello plus name.
Oh no, it's missing this thing over here. I forgot to pass the name value to the string format. For all developers looking at this, use the string.format. It's so easier when you don't forget to pass the variable. And boom. Oh, there it is. Oh my God, this extreme programming is so much fun, so hard code. So let's say we want to customize this code, right? So let's say we want to give like a string upper equals name, and we want to give this in uppercase, right? And then upper. And I want to put a breakpoint here just to make sure this thing works. All right, so here I am. So the value of name is Jason, and now I'm going to step over, and now upper is Jason, all uppercase. So I'll just click on resume, and there it is. So,
Rad.
I mean, yeah, it's cool, right? It's cool that with Visual Studio Code you got that same experience on usual IDEs, usual Java IDEs, and it's kind of sleek, but there are a few things that are not supported, as I demonstrated before. Refactoring is still like one thing that our engineering team is working on, and we work with Red Hat, who builds the language server support for Java on Visual Studio Code. Behind the scenes, the Java support is actually using a project from Eclipse. So, behind the scenes, it's kind of Eclipse, but on the front end, it uses the code. If you're an Eclipse developer, if you know really well how Eclipse works behind the scenes, you're welcome to join the Visual Studio Code extension and collaborate on that, providing more support. Refactoring is one area that we would love to have more collaboration with the Java community. Okay, so the other project I would like to share is Quarkus, because Quarkus is an interesting framework that allows you to also build a native, ahead of time compiled version of your Java project using another tool called GraalVM. So let's see how this works. So we have here a Maven project. Let's call Acme. Let's call Quarkus hello. Let's give a version, package name, ingredient resource, and it's REST. So we're good with that, and that's it. And let's give it a location. So let's generate here. Open a new window. So now I have a Quarkus application. It is also Maven. And as I said, Quarkus uses microprofile APIs for most of its stuff. So you're going to see that we are using JOX-RS, which is part of the microprofile umbrella. And it already generates a REST service for us, the path hello. And if you're a Java EE developer, you are already familiar with the JOX-RS API. Behind the scenes, the implementation varies, but this is the API that is surfaced to you. Okay, so we got it working. I think I already killed Spring, so let's run Quarkus now. Let's go to, see, there's no run command here because the way you run this project is actually with Maven. So let's go to Maven, Quarkus hello, plugins, and then you have Quarkus. And now the extension for Maven will find what are the commands that you can give to the Quarkus plugin. And one of them is dev. So we can also do this from the command line, would be just Quarkus dev. Or we can do from here. So here's Quarkus dev. Now, of course, you would have to go and look at the Quarkus documentation and walk through getting started with Quarkus to figure this out. But it's still like if you're a Maven developer, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so code got compiled, and now it's up and running. So let's go to hello. And here's the hello service from Quarkus. Now, when you are working with Quarkus, you get a nice feature out of the box, which is hot reload. So let's say I want to compute string name equals string upper equals name, string name, and I'll give the same code. Format hello s from Quarkus upper. And let's see how this goes. And just in case if name equals null, let's just make sure we get a name.
I found an article on Quarkus's website also about deploying to Azure, which I'm sure has some important information in there. I went ahead and dropped that in the chat.
It's by the way, it's an article that I kind of wrote myself.
Did you?
So if anybody has any issue, feel free to complain to me.
Does that go for just everything in Java in general? Can people just hit you up on Twitter and complain?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, happy to look at your snarky comments on Twitter and comment back at the same level. So
go follow Bruno on Twitter right now. Don't miss this opportunity. He loves to debate.
So I just want to make sure that so I'm just, as you saw, Quarkus hot reloaded. If I save, so the process that is running on the back end on the JVM will look at the changes of the file and recompile on the fly. And you can just come here to the browser and hit refresh. So it's a very, very nice experience. So if you are a Java developer and you want to enhance your developer experience, and if you are already familiar with some of the Java EE APIs like JOXRS, definitely give a Quarkus a try, and on VS Code it works great. This hot reload feature is not anything particular to VS Code. It's actually part of Quarkus Maven plugin. So even if you are, let's say I'm gonna kit this thing here, and let's go to the terminal. It's some people like to prefer VI or Emacs. I'm a VI guy, so
VI here.
Same here, same there. Okay, so
you might need to go a little larger though. It's a little difficult to see.
Yeah. I'll increase the font size. There you go. Okay, so here I'm gonna do Maven Quarkus dev, and now I'm gonna do the folder, and I'm gonna source main Java. Yeah, creating. Let's say Quarkus hot reloaded from Vim, and let's save it now. Let's hit refresh, and there you go. So it is a functionality from the Maven plugin, the Quarkus Maven plugin. So regardless of your IDE, you get this nice hot reload functionality. Works really, really great. Yeah. Big shout out to the Red Hat guys. You did an amazing toolbox here for microservices developers with Quarkus. So Quarkus has this other capability of building a native image. So if we look at the process, okay, I'll give you my password top. Oh, it's because of htop. Okay, so if we look at the process, actually, you know what? JConsole. Let me show you this JVM here. So this is running a regular JVM that, where are you, JConsole? Oh, here it is. So let's connect to the JVM. Quarkus hello dev jar. Yeah, this one. Let's connect. So this JVM is consuming about 60 megabytes of memory, right? So It is not a lot for a JVM. Java developers are used to 100 megabytes JVM, 200 megabyte JVM, depending on the process they are running into. So it's not a lot. So 60 megabytes is not a lot, but it's still a lot compared to Go developers, C++ developers, and Rust developers that can go down to 2 megabytes of memory consumption. What Quarkus allows me to do is use a project called graalvm.org, graalvm. This is a project from Oracle that allows you to do an ahead-of-time compilation of a Java project and build a native image of your Java application. So that will give you a binary that is very small compared to the size of the JVM plus your code. The JVM can take up to 80 megabytes, maybe 30 megabytes if you narrow down to the only pieces that you need, but on average about 80 megabytes. And with graalvm, you can go down to maybe 5 megabytes, 80, 10 megabytes of a single binary that you can just run on the platform that you built it to. So let's build this native image. And Quarkus has a nice command for this. It's called the Quarkus native image. So let's do maven Quarkus native image. And it fails because I'm at the wrong folder. And also fail because I don't have a package. So let's create a package. Actually, you know what? There is a thing on Quarkus that allows me, let me reset my window. I don't want you. Oh, wait. So if you go to the Quarkus website on the Getting Started, there is an element that is building native image. There is a nice command here that creating a container. Yes, this. It will use Docker to build the native image. So you don't even have to install graalvm. Just let these things do. You do have to have Docker installed, but this command will run it, will do everything for you. It will fail the task. It will fail the task because I changed the code. So here's the thing: when you create a Quarkus project, it gives you a unit test to validate the REST endpoint. So I changed the code to return something, right? It doesn't return just hello. So let's simplify this thing and just say return hello. I don't want to eliminate the unit test. Right. I don't want to change the logic either. Okay.
So you're saying it creates the unit tests every time you use the Quarkus?
When you generate a Quarkus project from the way I did, it will generate the endpoint and a unit test for that endpoint. So when you make changes to that endpoint, you have to also change the unit test.
Yeah.
Or if you're like me, just delete the test. Everything works all the time.
Bruno. Test-driven development.
I'm a software developer. I'm not a Q&A team member. That's someone else's problem.
It's very anti-DevOps of you.
Hey, I'm not doing right-click publish.
Worked on my machine.
I'm not doing right-click deploy, so I'm good.
That's true. We're not there yet.
So the nice thing about the command that I did was that, like, it compiled the project. It comes already configured for that. It runs the unit test, tests the endpoint. It's using JUnit very nicely, right? It is integrated with actually the latest version of JUnit, the Jupyter platform, JUnit 5. It validates the status code and the body. So it's a nice sample to get you started with unit testing in Java. And then the maven command that I triggered will build a Docker image with raw VM inside, and then build the native image of my application ahead of time compiled inside the Docker image, and then copy that file to outside so I can run on my computer, right?
Okay.
So this takes some time because, again, this is ahead of time compilation, which means it has to look into all the possible paths in your code and figure out everything that can possibly happen and create um, um, a native binary. So it's not like your usual C++ code, but it does give you great footprint, memory footprint, and startup time. So if you do care about footprint, consider GraalVM. And if you do care for startup time, which in my opinion you should not, but that's an interesting debate to have with Jason on the sidelines.
Let's save that for the end.
Exactly. Uh, if you do care on startup time, then it's also another good reason to look into GraalVM because it's a native compiled binary that does not run VJVM. It runs something else called the substrate VM, which is a native VM that has a garbage collector, so your application can still work as is. You don't have to worry about removing objects from the memory. You don't have to worry about that. The Graal VM, Substrate VM will take care of that for you. The other thing to consider is it is build time. The more stuff you have in your code, the longer will be the build time. So, one nice thing about the Quarkus developer experience is that you can develop using traditional JVM, and during developing time, you get this great fast feedback iteration of making changes on the fly, hitting refresh on the browser. And then when you feel like, oh, everything is ready now, I want to ship to my pre-production environment to make solid QA testing. And then you go and you build your binary, your native binary with GraalVM. So you have to consider that, and you have to also look into some limitations that GraalVM has, especially around reflection. So stay within the boundaries of Quarkus that are already well documented that will work on GraalVM, and then you should be fine. Otherwise, it will run into runtime issues because your code was not properly natively compiled. Meanwhile, what can we do? We can complain about
YAML. Before we go down the YAML rabbit hole, you were talking about GitHub Actions. I guess is kind of related to where we were going with YAML, and some of the things we were wanting to show off. But I know that we don't really. I don't believe we have the GitHub Actions stuff to actually show off. But maybe you can tell us at a high level some of the interesting things related to the GitHub Actions that we were talking about showing.
Let me open up the browser here. So we were talking about github.com/actions/virtual environments images. So first of all, if you want to look at what is already installed on the GitHub Actions VMs that are used during your workflows, you can go to this GitHub repository on this Actions organization, virtual environments. Not many people know about this.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
But okay. You can look at, for example, Linux. You can look at what goes inside the Ubuntu 18.04 VM, and then it will show you all the software that is pre-installed. .NET Core, all the 328 versions of .NET Core. You got C++, you got Google Chrome, you got CLIs. You also get the what?
So it's loaded. It's got all kinds of stuff.
It is loaded. It is very loaded. And it also has a bunch of Java tools installed out of the box. It has the Zulu OpenJDK 1.7. It has Adopt OpenJDK 8, 11, and 12. 12 is not the latest version. It's just that, nobody made a PR contribution to include 13 and 14, the two newer versions. So if you're watching this, go to the virtual environment and create a PR to add more versions of Adopt OpenJDK.
Yeah.
And Gradle, Maven.
we
lots of things are pre-installed.
Bruno, in chat, we've got
What?
someone who's asking us if you could maybe explain Quarkus a little bit more in depth. I know you kind of touched on it, but maybe for those who might have just joined us here recently, just a quick overview on Quarkus again.
Yeah. What I can say is what you can find on the website. So it is both at the same time a framework, but also a sort of like a platform where it comes with everything that you need for building microservices, especially those that you feel inclined to deploy to a Kubernetes environment. So you can once you write a code like this service, this endpoint here, what you get is this is the definition of a REST endpoint using the JOX-RS API. So that's why you see the javax.ws.rs package over there. This uses the JOX-RS API. Quarkus is a combination of several Red Hat projects that provide the implementation of these APIs. So when you use Quarkus, you are using different other projects by Red Hat behind the scenes. For example, Undertow is a Red Hat project. Hibernate is another project. What else? JOX-RS, I'm sorry, Jersey is the JOX-RS implementation, but I think Quarkus does not use it. So there are different projects that are made up behind the scenes, that help make Quarkus behind the scene. And the other thing is the plugin for Maven that gives you all these functionalities that you can just use from Maven. And also provides support for extensions. So you can write your own extension for Quarkus. And once you do that, Quarkus takes care of managing the extension for you, so you can easily integrate that extension into your code. An example of an extension would be, for example, S3. You want to operate, work with storage on Amazon, or you want to work with storage on Azure Storage or Cosmos DB or any other database or service in the cloud. You could write extensions for that and then expose those as an API in your code. So that's why I say Quarkus is more like a platform than just a framework, because it allows you to do all these sort of things in your code. And once you do have that, Quarkus gives you this nice developer experience where, again, you can run just Quarkus dev, and that runs the JVM, the traditional hotspot JVM, and that gives you this fast experience of hot reloading. And once you want to go to production, you can choose two different options. Either you deploy on the JVM as usual, or you create a native image ahead of time compilation of your Java code using the Grow VM project, which is an Oracle project that Quarkus has a lot of collaboration and integration with. And that's what I did over here. So it is compiled. So let's see what we have here. We have Quarkus app. I want to find the binary. Nope. Oh, it created the image.
The jar file?
No, it created I think it created a Docker image.
Oh.
Let me just go back to that. So what I did was I want to create a container. This. True.
Hopefully, Sheriff 212, that answers your question on Quarkus, but definitely let us know if there's something more specific you're curious about.
Yeah, you gotta go and check the Quarkus.io website if you really want to learn more. Where are you? Native. Oh, here it is. This file here. So
didn't see that last time.
yeah, this is the file that is a native binary, right? And it's 27 megabytes. This is a lot less than the JVM plus your code on average. But if I do try to run this thing, I think it will fail because this was created for Mac, for Linux, not for Mac. So let's see. Yep, exact format error. So what we need to do is create a Docker image. Docker build. Let's see if this works. All right, so let's do Docker run. Address already in use. Ooh. Oh, of course I have. Yeah, no, I'm binding to the. Yes. All right, and it's up and running. It's very, very fast, like less than like microsecond stuff. So 8080, and then here's the application running. And if I do /hello, here's my hello. So everything now runs on this native binary, right? So I didn't have to learn. The nice thing about this quick start is that you just follow it through and you don't have to learn about raw VM. You just trust whatever Quarkus configures out of raw VM to make you a native image of your code. And now I have this. Now I have this nice Docker image. Docker images grab Quarkus.
I've got another question, Bruno.
Yeah.
What's the embedded server used by Quarkus?
Is it Tommy E? No, it's not Tommy E. It's an implementation by Red Hat. I don't know out of my head because Red Hat made a few changes last year. It used to be a project, but then they changed the runtime. They canceled the previous project, and now they are focused on this new project. I think it was Thorntail. Oh.
Anbu Sampath commented Undertow. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, that's what I think it is these days. So Thorntail, they used, I think it used to be Thorntail, and then they canceled this project. Now end of life. It's no longer supports microprofile.
Pretty recent.
Yeah, we recommend users to migrate to either Quarkus or Wildfly. Same API, same support. Yeah, I don't. It used to be called Wildfly Swarm, and then they changed the name. I think it's Undertow. Java. Anyways, it's something.
We'll say
Red Hat does a lot of this. They have different projects for different pieces, and then they start putting the pieces together. And that's what Quarkus is at the end of the day. It's behind the scenes. Quarkus is a lot of Red Hat projects and some other open source projects that Red Hat collaborates with. In the same spirit as Spring Boot. Like Spring Boot by itself is it has its own components, but it uses behind the scenes a lot of Spring Framework and other Spring projects. Like Spring Data, it's a separate project. So Spring Boot combines all of that and give you an opinionated development platform in the same way that Quarkus does with these microprofile and Java EE APIs. So something that developers should really consider evaluating if you're experienced with Java EE APIs, because it gives you this nice experience of building microservices, both that will run on the JVM, or you can go and build a native native image. Now, so and on Quarkus, I even have a native image as a Docker image. I could go and deploy to Azure, right? I could come here and portal.azure.com. But I don't know, Jason, I feel like there's a lot of material already covering this thing. I was wondering if you could cover something different. How about pushing this code to GitHub and at least making it compile using GitHub Actions?
That sounds fun. We've got about, I'd say a little less than 20 minutes. We got maybe 15 minutes or so.
So we have 15 minutes for people to see me battling with YAML on GitHub Actions.
If somebody wanted to come into the portal, into the Azure portal, and get started, is there anything in the marketplace? If they were to do a create new resource, is there something specific to Java or any of the things that you've been talking about?
So if you go to the portal and you just go to create a resource and you type Java, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see Java Container Image, WebLogic, Minecraft, Java Game Server, and runtime with Tomcat on CentOS. Like all these are images that are provided by third parties, right?
Yeah.
And these will deploy as VMs. So you don't get much of the benefit of the cloud just by deploying these VMs, unless of course that's what you really want, which is totally fine as well. Right. But if you do want to deploy Java on Azure, the best resource is going to azure.com/Java and get started from there, which will give you nice pointers to one, how get an account, but most importantly, these are the things that you can do. You can deploy on Kubernetes, on App Service, or serverless. And the other thing, the Azure Maven plugins, Visual Studio Code, plugins for Eclipse and IntelliJ. The thing that I would actually, besides getting this glimpse of what things are supported for Java developers, I would go to the documentation website, which is docs.microsoft.com/Azure/Java. And this will give you a much better look in depth into what we support and how we support. So we have Azure for Java Quick Starts, we have Spring integration, and we have a new service called Azure Spring Cloud. Like if you are into Cloud Foundry, orchestrated microservices with service discovery, service registries, and circuit breakers and all those cool stuff, gotta take a look at Azure Spring Cloud Service. But the basic services would be Azure App Service for just like a web application, or Azure Functions for serverless functions. And the guides are very straightforward. So if you look at Create a Java App, it will give you an experience for hosting your service either on Linux or Windows. I always recommend Linux. And it's all through command line. There's no requirement on IDEs, and it uses the Maven plugin, which again, it's agnostic to any IDE. So you can definitely get this working on your account. And for Azure Functions, the experience is also very similar. You don't depend on any IDE, but you can, of course, use VS Code or other IDEs. But if you look at command line and you go to Java, here's how you do it with Azure CLI and Maven. There's a Maven project generator, and here's the code of the function, the POM file, how you run locally, and then how you deploy. AZ login, Maven Azure Functions deploy. It's that simple. So the documentation is really good. It covers all different ways that people can think of deploying the deployment of their applications to Azure. So really, take your time, check the documentation, and let us know if it worked, if it didn't, and provide feedback. We'd love to hear side of it.
I dropped some links to both of those resources in there.
Yeah, awesome.
You mentioned serverless.
Yep.
Can you give us a little bit of your impression on Java and serverless and the relationship to each other?
Yeah. So number one, it works. Number two, on Azure Functions, we now have support for Java 11. And that allows developers to write more modern code, like using lambda functions, var type. For example, I don't need to give a name, a type. I can just come here and say, actually, what's the name? I can just say it's a var. I don't need to give a type because the compiler will figure out the type based on the right side of the statement. So the compiler will know, oh, okay, this is a string. I don't need to give a type. This is a support that was added in Java 10, but Java 10 was never considered like a production-ready Java. It is generally available, but what most of the vendors are commercially supporting is Java 11. So that's why I don't use Java 10. But there's other features. Just go on Google for new features on Java 14 since Java 8. There's a nice blog on that gives you all the features that were added from 9 to 14 in comparison to 8. And if you're still on 8, definitely go research why you should move to 11. And one of the reasons beyond just the language is the runtime. The JVM enhanced a lot in terms of memory consumption, performance, and ergonomics, and things like that compared to Java 8. For example, I have a gRPC service that I'm benchmarking now. If you're looking at me on Twitter, you're going to see some results. Java 8 was performing very badly in terms of like requests per second and also memory consumption. I remember the memory consumption was around 220, 250 megabytes of memory. And on Java 14, it was consuming around 130 megabytes of memory. So like less than half of the memory. And then on throughput, Java 14 is performing around 55,000 or I'll say 42,000 requests per second, depending on the garbage collector. So if I compare the same garbage collector, 42,000 requests per second on 14 versus around 25,000 requests per second on Java 8. So a huge improvement on throughput as well. So developers should look into upgrading their Java as soon as possible if they want to benefit from performance and cost, because at the end of the day, you can reduce cost. If that throughput is enough, 25, and you have 2 containers to get 50, then you can cut down 1 CPU and just upgrade Java, right?
Yeah. Yep. And also, sorry, I was just typing in the chat. One of our guests was, or our viewers was pointing out this really nice blog post, it looks like, but we don't have links, the ability to share links within chat for some of our viewers. So if you maybe could walk us through in chat how to find that, but yeah, it's too dangerous to allow y'all to put whatever links you want in the chat. But
give us the search terms.
Yeah, tell us how to find it.
All right, let me
search for the 425 show.
425 show. Java functions Azure. I don't know.
Is that right?
I'll let you search while I'm creating my GitHub repo. Okay, so I'll go do this thing with Quarkus. Let me try Quarkus. Create new repo. No template. Quarkus. Switch Quarkus. And all right. Make it clean. And then okay, so let's see. Git add source.
Bruno, we got another question here you might be able to answer for us.
Yeah.
Andu Sampath commented that I recently noticed all Azure Java SDK and Azure Spring related to code have moved over to, and then I'm not sure exactly where because links, but they couldn't find any blog posts about it. Can you share some information on those changes? Do you know anything about that, the Java SDK and Azure Spring moving?
So the thing that is going on with the Azure SDKs is that they are being enhanced over time by following a new architecture. So you're going to see, first of all, there are two types of SDKs. One is what we call the management SDKs, which are used for managing resources on Azure. So create a VM, create a function, or disable this policy, or enable that, or delete that resource group, and things like that, like managing the resources of your cloud. And then there's the other kind of SDK, which is like application integration with services. For example, sending a message to Service Bus, pulling data from Cosmos DB, or authenticating with Azure AD. So those two types of SDKs. They're very different in how they are being maintained these days. And that's why the Azure SDK team is working to bring them on par in terms of like how they are designed and how they are offered to developers. So the brand new SDKs are, if you go to twitter.com Azure SDK, first of all, there is this great account from the team where you can follow all the news. And then you go to their website, and then you have client libraries. That's how they call it, client libraries versus management libraries. So if you look at Java, you're going to see the client libraries, the new ones. Let's look at storage, which is pretty basic. And here is the GitHub of their latest version. So the repo is azure-sdk-for-java. And here is the code for this Azure Storage new client library. It's important that you follow this page here, azure.github.io/azure-sdk. This is the main page for all the SDKs these days. And from here, you get a lot of like release notes, the differences, how to use the Java doc, Microsoft documentation. For Java, for example, you have here you have the GitHub docs. Let me look at the storage again. So GitHub docs, when you click on the GitHub docs, it actually takes you to the Java doc, which is something that most Java developers are actually looking for. And all the documentation is done through here. How you configure this thing on Maven, how you use it, how you can create a storage account, and then examples of using the code. So here, how to, where is the upload a blob from a stream. I want to see this code here. Here it is. So create a blob container client, and then you have the source code and how to do it. Create a blob client. All these easy copy and paste, confirmed, tested code. You shouldn't copy and paste, but we know that it will, so that's why we make sure it works. So follow this thing, Azure SDK.
Yeah, I put a link to that. Well, not the Twitter, but the link that you got to from that.
Yeah.
And we've had a few really good comments from C. Matskas, also pointing out that they have monthly releases for the Azure SDKs now.
Yep, that is true.
See if I can find some of these here.
So now I'm playing with the GitHub Actions. So if we come, this is a Maven project. I think I'm missing GitHub commit files. You see, I didn't have a POM file on the repo, so that's why it thought it was a simple workflow. That it suggested to me a simple workflow. But now I pushed the whole source code, which includes the pom.xml file, the Maven file. Now I'm going to refresh on GitHub Actions, and then I'm going to see it's actually giving me still the wrong recommendation for this repo. So let me see what's going on. I don't want a Jekyll project for sure. This is a Maven project. Let's go again. GitHub Actions. Yeah, this is wrong. It's not a Jekyll, it's a Maven project. Come on, GitHub Actions. It's a Maven project. Now I need to talk to the GitHub guys again. So let's look for Maven. Here, publish Java package with Maven. I don't even want to publish, I just want to build. So set up this, okay, Java with Maven. Set up this workflow. And here's the famigerated YAML file. Jesus, good Lord. I will just click, oh, I don't want to use Java 8. Yes, this is important. I want to use Java 14. I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's see, we'll see. Commit new file. And then I go to actions. And then GitHub workflow. Wait, build this thing. No, I don't want to be readme Quarkus. I know. Oh, I know GitHub added a new event that I can easily trigger workflows now manually, but it's through the API. I don't know that out of my head, so I'll just do this thing here. Oh, maybe it's the trigger. Is it the trigger? On push, branches master, pull request, branches master. Yeah.
Yeah, looks right. It didn't trigger if you go into actions. You know
oh, it did now.
Oh,
it did now. As usual, cool. It takes some time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Bruno, we've got. Oops, I'm a little loud there. We've got just a couple more minutes here, so I'm going to bring us back and start wrapping things up. Thank you to everybody on the chat. We've had a lot of good conversations in here. In fact, we've got one of the former product marketing managers for Azure SDKs is C. Maskus there in the chat. So thanks for joining us. Thank you for everybody suggesting different things. And I would say, this has been great, Bruno. Thank you, first of all. Kind of short notice. I reached out to you late last week or early this week or whatever. So
yeah. No worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I thought we'll have to do this again. I know. I mean, we've had some great conversations here and some good interaction with people. So, and we've got a lot of pretty good number of viewers watching us. So, seems like there's interest in Java. Unsurprisingly, I'm sure for you.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's always fun to chat with you, Bruno. And I know we've had some real fun conversations about site reliability engineering and how we can get that like mindset and that language and that. That whole, whatever you call it, field, up to or injected into the Java community a little bit more. I know you've told me a little bit about.
Yeah, we can discuss how another topic to cover. I think it's important for developers to learn about how the JVM works, because one thing that I'm exploring these days is how developers are deploying Java applications to the cloud. And what I'm starting to realize is that most developers, they just put like Java minus jar in their application, and they hope that the JVM will figure things out and make it the best performance possible. And it is unfortunately not that magical. Sometimes the developer has to give some hints to the JVM to make better use of the resources like CPUs and memory and really behave the best possible for that particular kind of application. Mm-hmm. So maybe another conversation that we can have in the future is something like that. How can we help our developers make better use of the JVM in the cloud inside of containers? Should I give 2 CPUs to my container? Should I give 4 CPUs? 1 CPU is enough? That's an interesting conversation.
It is. It's a whole other conversation. So, and I'd love to go deeper with you on that. So we'll schedule another follow-up and maybe talk a little bit more about reliability and all the different things that, as a developer, we have to think about these days. It's not just about, does it work on my machine? It's not just about, does it perform in my environment? It's really, does it work for the users that you made it for? Because that's really all that matters. So anyway, well, we're going to say goodbye now, but thank you, Bruno, for being here. This has been fun. Always my favorite part of the week is to chat with friends on a live stream. And thank you, everybody who joined us, including everybody who came over from the Visual Studio raid. That was awesome. And catch us again next week. We'll do another one on, I believe, Monday with another guest. And thanks so much for coming. This has been All Around Azure. My name is Jason Hand. This is Bruno Borges. And
thank you all.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you later. Bye.
See ya. Bye.